So first, I'm sorry for the late start. Meretz Hashem. Next week we're gonna flip back, right, Steve? What are we gonna do? 7:45. We're gonna do like smichas. We're gonna do 7:45 mincha, and then shir. Then we're gonna do smichas chaver. Then we'll go to the mikvah, and then we'll go ahead and we'll eat chicken, and then we'll start. It's gonna be a packed night. Clear, right? Whatever. It's all right. Clear your schedule. Clear your schedule. Dairy. All right. And Meretz Hashem, so we'll switch up schedule. I'm sorry. Thank you everyone for accommodating. I know it's a late start, but okay. Let's. All right. I can do it. I can do this. I'm up for the challenge. Right. So we are picking up from page 44. Page 44, Osio test. This is actually a very moving and dramatic piece, where the Machshava explains the following idea. He says as follows: Yeshtam Anoshim. Page 44. If anyone needs svarim, we still have extras around over here. So he says, Yeshnam.
Oh no, it's not mine. I got
it. He wants two. Take two. No
more for me to drink.
Good. Let's want this one. Page 44. Page 44, Osyutas. He writes as follows: Yeshnam anoshim hachoshvim sherakhim anshe emes nikiye hadas. He says, listen to this. He says there are some people who feel that ultimately, again, his lashon over here is that they're the only people who are anshe emes, who are men of truth, nikiye hadas, people of pure intent, v'rakeim einam merabim es atzmam v'lo zulasam, and these individuals feel that lamaisa they really represent the highest form of genuinity. Right? Just people who hold themselves to be very high. People who hold themselves, to be genuine people, to be the kind of people ultimately, again, who are nikiye hadas. They hold themselves out like this. He says, and what happens? They don't engage in self-deception. They don't engage in deception of the other. Now, I just want to be clear. Interestingly enough, the Mechaber is not necessarily this as a slight, right? When you read this, it sounds like he's talking about people who are very arrogant, very, very high on themselves. He's talking about people over here who really, in general, just try to be absolutely and completely genuine individuals. I would say, many of us become content with not being genuine. Right? Whereas I'm content with that. I'm not genuine, and I'm okay with it. There are people who truly want to be genuine individuals. They want to be genuine, and what they don't want to do is they don't want to engage in self-deception. Not deception of the others, not deception of themselves. They want to be truly genuine people. So listen to this. Which you always say, so at first glance, good or bad? Good or bad? What would you say? Good, right? To be a genuine person who doesn't want to engage in self-deception and doesn't want to go ahead and deceive the other, that sounds fantastic. Right? So here's the problem, say. Watch this. He says, what's the problem? He says, when these people experience some moment of incredible. First of all, I'm sorry, I didn't thank Reb Tzvi for the beautiful, beautiful spread. I'm very excited. I didn't eat dinner yet. So after, so I'm going to town to this now. So it's incredible. I see beautiful. And who's the mashke sponsor?
It's been in stock in honor of his grandfather, who was there for 2 weeks.
Yitzi, what's the name? Your grandfather? Yaakov and Rav Tzvi Levi. And Anonymous. And Anonymous, right? Okay. Yitzi, thank you. Father, grandfather's the Shamash and Aliyah. Tzvi, thank you, as always. Thank you, Anonymous. Yeah, thank you to Anonymous. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Good.
Yitzi, can you tell us the caveat to sponsoring the alcohol?
He didn't drink. Or believe in Chassidus. Right. They go hand in hand. It's self-explanatory. Really. You know what the incredible part is? Right now he's in the Olam HaEmes and he sees the truth. That's incredible, right? Baruch Hashem. It's incredible. All right, chaburah, let's continue. So remember again, I'm going to stop being asked to officiate at events or things like that. Right. So as we were saying before, so remember again, so the Piaget says we're talking about people who want to be genuine. Right? People again who literally again strive for this level of being genuine. So what happens? So the problem we'll say is v'haya kasher yagishu b'kerbam ezam in orus the kedusha.
What about the first part? I think only them.
No, so it's not even meant. In other words, what they do is they hold themselves to a very high standard. He's talking about a person who is, Chavra, let me ask you this question. The greatest challenge in establishing human relationships. What is the greatest challenge? Communication, beautiful. What's the greatest challenge in establishing relationships? Trust. So, right? Trust. And why is there a problem with putting your trust in someone? Because the truth is, at the end, I'm making myself vulnerable, and I don't really know that you're genuine. In other words, the greatest challenge we have is that people often are not genuine, right? Often people want something from us, and that's why they do the things they do. They say the things they say, and they act in the ways that they act. So I'll say, that's the dynamic. So what the Machshava is describing over here is not a bad person, not a Baal Gaiva, but someone who just I want to be a genuine person. That's my goal, and I hold myself out. And I will say, what does it mean when you're a genuine person? When you're a genuine person, I will say, when you're a genuine person, it means you're going to say things that are true. There's an interesting machlokes in Maseches Ksuvos, right? Machlokes Yesham Beis Hillel, that when you go to a chasana, so again, this is going to sound very countercultural, right? But right, you tell a kala that she's beautiful. So basically, right? So hey.
The one guy that waited in line.
So Beis Hillel says you should tell the kala that she's beautiful. Well, Beis Shammai says only tell her she's beautiful if she's beautiful. If she's not beautiful, don't say it. Don't say it. What does Beis Hillel count? What happens if the kala is not beautiful? So Beis Hillel says, right? Beis Hillel says at the end of the day, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, right? At the end of the day, this man is marrying this woman, which means he finds her beautiful. So if he finds her beautiful, you can say that she's beautiful. That's the end of the story. I will say, what's the machlokes over here? Beis Shammai's entire essence was MS. Right? Beis Shammai was all about MS. So Beis Shammai says, don't say something that's not true. If she's not beautiful, don't say it. Be genuine. You see, I will say, Beis Shammai often is like the purist, right? That's what Beis Shammai is. Beis Shammai is always the purist. So in the world of the purist, genuinity is incredibly important. Beis Hillel is not a purist. Beis Hillel is a realist. Beis Hillel is a realist. So over here, the Piagetson is describing ultimately again this concept of being a purist. And as a purist, I want to make sure that I'm genuine. So if I say something, it's going to be genuine. If I feel if I express an emotion, I just want to be genuine. It sounds beautiful. What's the problem? He says, when a person like this feels some type of surge of holiness within, what ends up happening? He begins to literally second guess it. So I feel inspired, right? So what does the genuine person do? Sure, I feel inspired, but am I really inspired? Right? Maybe it's the maker's mark. Maybe it's the chili. Maybe it's the schnitzel. Maybe I don't know. In other words, maybe it's not kedusha, right? Maybe it's not the holiness. Maybe it's something else. Im emesu v'lo dimyon greda, and the person tries to figure out is this true inspiration? All right, I want to point out, we were talking about before, we were making a joke about Yitzi, about Yitzi saying his grandfather Misnagid. Let's say you should just know, one of the original arguments that Misnagdim had about Chasidim was that it's not genuine. It's not genuine. That ultimately, again, those feelings of inspiration that you're getting from a L'chaim, that you're getting from a Kumzis, that you're getting from a Niggin, that's not genuine. They felt genuine inspiration comes from Torah. If it's not coming from Torah, then it's something fluffy, that's nice, but that's not genuine inspiration. So the problem, says the Piagetson, is that sometimes the very thoughtful person who just wants to be genuine in every area feels a wave of inspiration. And then what happens when he feels it? He second guesses it. Right? And what does he think to himself? It's not real. Like I said, okay, it's this, it's the kumzitz, it's the shalashudis, it's the havdalah, it's the l'chaim. It's not real. So look at the Piagetson says. He says, Ezamin Hisaurus, Vahaya Kasher, Yishu Bekar Ezamin Hisaurus. Very good. O Efshar, Rak Me'ezaz Siba Gufnis, Bois Orus. Both say sometimes a person will say the inspiration is not from my soul. Where's the inspiration from? It's from my body. As well say, all kidding aside, person makes l'chaim, and ultimately again, calms down a little bit. You could feel a certain sense of elation, a certain sense of happiness, even a certain sense of inspiration. Is that God? Is that God? I don't know. Is that God or is that Tito? I don't know. This Tito, right? What is it? What is it? And ultimately, again, he's not sure exactly how to deal with all of this. So look what he writes. He says, "Pashar ba'a me'eza daga o simcha gufnis kidoma." Maybe again, lemaisa, the elation that I feel has nothing to do with Hashem, but rather maybe it's some resolution of some problem that I was having, or some type of physical pleasure that I'm having that's translating into a feeling of elation, but it's not real spirituality. So I will say, I just want to point out, this is something that's this tension is an incredibly important tension, because sometimes, I'll give you a perfect example of this, and I think many of us will relate to this. I'll say one of the most startling things that many of us received from the pandemic, besides getting COVID, right, was this idea that davening is so much better when I do it alone, right? Suddenly again, there was nowhere to rush to, there was nowhere to go to. I davened a 50-minute shachris on a Tuesday, right? I never realized there were so many words of Psukei de Zimra, right? I never realized, I didn't know. I thought those pages were just like filler pages, right? And here, again, it's incredible. And there's karbanos, and it's beautiful, and there's halalukas, and there's az yashir. And to say Shema with a real feeling of accepting Hashem and Shemona Esrei, to actually focus on the brachas, and it's great. And I can't tell you how many conversations I have with people about, I'm so much more inspired at home than I am at shul. And in fact, unfortunately, you had people that dropped off the grid. You really did. People who just never really came back. I don't mean that they dropped off the grid from Yiddishkeit, but dropped off the grid in many respects from organized Jewish life. Because suddenly, so we'll say, I'll ask you, is that real inspiration? Is that real inspiration? So remember again, this goes a little bit back to what we were speaking about last week, when I think Steve brought up, right, this idea that sometimes you could feel what we would often term as a feeling of elevation or inspiration, even from non-Jewish music. Right? And we're speaking about, is that inspiration? Is that inspiration? Some inspiration means a feeling that stems from something that is holy. So by definition, if I feel that, davening at home is better than davening at shul, so that might be a feeling, but it's not inspiration.
Could there be a lyric that's inspiration?
I'm sorry? There could be words, but again, like we spoke about last week, inspiration has...
Kedusha behind it, but
correct.
There's a line
there could be something...
Sometimes you see the light in strangers and places if you look at it right. So Jerry Applebaum can back me up on that.
I'll back you up to the hill.
Anyway, but it's like a perspective changing when you really think of the deepness of that lyric. It's like step back, look at it again.
It could stimulate thought. I don't know that it's a din in inspiration. I don't know if it's an inspiration. So again, I'll just point out something very interesting. So what the Machshava says over here is that, so what happens when a person feels that they feel inspired, but the source of inspiration doesn't necessarily connect with the ideal in halachic practice. Right? So here's a perfect example, right? I feel more inspired when I daven by myself. But halacha dictates that whenever possible, I daven with a minyan. So how does that work?
You might
how does that work?
Necessarily feel inspiration in every tefillah.
So this is where we get to what the PhD is driving at over here, is that people who really try to be genuine recognize that very often when you think you feel inspired, it may not actually be inspiration. It may be something else. It could be a feeling of elevation, could be a feeling of open-mindedness, it could be a feeling maybe of connection in some way, but it might not be inspiration. Now watch this.
But it might be.
It might be, correct. But he's talking about over here, the thoughtful person, when he has this feeling of inspiration, the first thing he does is, well, one second, is this genuine? Is this not genuine? Is this real inspiration or is it something else? Look what the Piagetna says. Let's get to the punchline. He says, V'aleim v'al-kiyotzebem ne'emar, ha'y chachamim be'einehem, v'neget p'neihem nevonim. So about this, the pasuk says, woe to the people who are wise in their own eyes, and ultimately, again, see their wisdom opposite them. What does this mean? He says, "K'kvar dibarnu la'el, eich shekol min his orus me'eza siba shetiyah, posachas es mifteche hanefesh asher ayedenu chalotzia." I will say this is incredible. Piagetna says, sometimes in life you have to stop thinking so much. If you have a feeling of inspiration, and it came from something that has a source in holiness, right? Again, you engage in something that is antithetical to Yiddishkeit, and you say, "Oh, this makes me feel inspired." That's not inspiration. That's not inspiration. It might be pleasure. It's inspiration. But assuming that you're engaged in something proper, and there's a feeling of inspiration that comes about, says the Piazetzna, don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. Is it real inspiration? Is it not real? Piazetzna would say, "Who cares?" It doesn't. Yes.
Some type of thing, something like that could be a catalyst.
100%. The Piazetzna, I think, is saying even something just more basic. He's saying sometimes don't overanalyze. Don't overanalyze. If you feel inspiration, write it. Don't worry about, is it actual, is it not? Is it genuine, is it not? If you feel it, and you feel there's an opportunity here to reach into the recesses of your soul, just ride that wave. Don't think too much about the genuinity of it. He says so beautifully, he says, because the truth is any level of inspiration, on whatever way it comes, whatever level it comes, posachas es miftechei hanefesh, asher ayidenu chalaotzia, opens up the soul. And this is kind of what Jerry was just saying. Sometimes even something that is not genuine inspiration could ultimately down the road, what? Lead to genuine inspiration. Don't doubt the feelings. Don't doubt the feelings. He goes on, he says, Ula tosa l'kedusha, v'afilu immerama ha'ish es atzmo, bis oruso, v'eshargashuso, imrak eno mechav mizadam. So let's listen to this. Even sometimes, I'll give you an interesting thing. Sometimes, ever have it, where sometimes in life, you're feeling very emotional about something. Whatever the something is. And then, you're davening, or there's a beautiful niggin in davening, right? And suddenly again, you just start crying. You just lose yourself in the niggin. You lose yourself in the tefillah. So, let me ask you, is that a spiritual experience? In other words, it could very well be that ultimately, again, the reason I'm losing myself in this is actually because I have a heavy heart regarding something else. Right? In other words, I have a family issue I'm dealing with. I have a personal issue I'm dealing with. I have a parnos issue. I'm the health, whatever it is. That's what's on my mind. And that's what's weighing so heavily on me. It just happens to be that this particular nigun really struck me. And so, the floodgates are open. But it's not really about God. So the Piazetzna says, who cares? What does it matter if it's actually about God or not actually about God? What matters is a genuine moment of emotion opens the soul. Whether the actual moment is one of inspiration and connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or whether or not it's a manifestation of something else going on in your life, at the end of the day, anything, remember I'll say, we keep saying this over, anything that allows me to tap into my inner emotion is either inspiration or, as Jerry just mentioned before, the pathway to inspiration. But essentially, Piazetzna says, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I will say again, one of the most profound phrases, right, is analysis paralysis. You overthink anything enough in life, and the only logical thing to do is to do absolutely nothing.
The perfectionist.
100%. So the Piazetzna,
it's not perfect. He didn't do it 100%.
Don't do it. Correct. So the Piazetzna says, if you have that feeling of inspiration, just go with it. Is it genuine? Is it not genuine? It doesn't matter. Just ride that wave. He goes on, he says, Vafilu, even if a person maybe is deluding himself a little bit, visoruso, visgarshuso. And others will say sometimes when that person has that, I don't know, I've experienced this many times, where there's an incredible emotional tidal wave, and the truth is, I'm pretty sure it's not actually about Hashem. It's other things happening in my life, but the tefillah is triggering it. Or there's a nigun that's triggering it. So the Piazetzna says, even if I know that most probably this is not about God, but it's not something else, it's okay. He says, as long as you're not trying to purposely be self-delusional or trying to go ahead and fool other people, it's okay. This is a great line. Kibein asara hislahavuyos remios timsa achos amitis. Let's listen to this line. Because within 10 within what we'll call 10 false moments of inspiration, there's at least one genuine one. I'll say, isn't that profound? Isn't that profound? Within 10 false moments of inspiration, there's at least one genuine moment. It says the Piaget, but sometimes to get to the one, what do you need? What do you need? You need the other 9. So I'll say, this to me is like such... So just to understand, what the Piaget is echoing over here is Beis Hillel. Right, so what is the Piaget saying? Tell the Kala she's pretty, even if she's not. Right? First of all, every Jewish woman is beautiful, so that doesn't. It's not. I have the mic. I have the mic over here. Right? Seriously. I'll call on you when I need insights. All right. So Beis Hillel says over here. So Beis Hillel says, like, sometimes you just got to go with it because it's what the moment demands. The Piaseczna says sometimes just go with it. Yeah.
No, I had an example that I've been going around for a long time. Remember when the satellite was out looking at Pluto? I'm saying, why is this beautiful thing out there if not for us to see? Why? So it led me to God put this out. Not on an intellectual level, but it's more an emotional, inspirational level.
Beautiful.
This is a God, something that God did. Why is it out there?
Right.
We're just discovering it.
Although I think, Jerry, that is, I would say actually that's a beautiful example of like a real inspiration. In fact, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Deos, he says the primary way to connect with Hashem is ultimately through the natural world. He says, see the greatness of the natural world and you will fall in love with God. So I think that's a beautiful example, but to me, that's like absolutely genuine. That's absolutely genuine. I think what the Piaget is coming over here, and again, I feel like is moments of like where I feel overwhelmed with emotion, but the truth is, I'm not actually sure that the emotion is God. The emotion might be other stuff going on in my life, but like, this was the area that allowed it to come out. And the Piaget is just saying, don't be a purist. That's the bottom. Don't be a purist when it comes to spirituality. If you could have a moment of emotion, go with it. Go with it. I remember again, this is what the Piaget's in general feeling, that what's the greatest challenge in life? The greatest challenge in life is that most of us are too emotionally guarded. We have multiple walls. And our walls have walls. And the walls of the walls have fortresses. And the fortresses have moats. And the moats have alligators. And there's so many layers that obstruct us from becoming emotional. So what the Piaget says is you have a moment of intense emotion. Whether the source is God or not God, ride it. Just ride it and go with it. So he goes on, he says, and I will say, that line, is that not the best line? Out of 10 disingenuous emotional moments, you'll find one that's good. You'll find one that's good. And 1 out of 10 is great. That's a great percentage. That's a great spiritual percentage for life.
Maybe 1 out of 10 will be genuine.
Well, hopefully more than 1 out of 10. But correct. In other words, I'll say it a little bit differently. In other words, sometimes you give and you don't really know who or what you're giving to. But the assumption is if I condition myself to become a giver, something will be genuine. Yes?
So what advice do you have when it's a negative emotion?
So remember, the Piaget's, he was merames, he hinted to this, that with negative emotion, what a person has to do is channel it. Right? In other words, the Piaget's said, whenever you're feeling emotion is energy. Whether it's positive emotion or negative emotion, that emotion, strong emotion is energy. Piaget says, if you have that, channel it. How do you channel it? Well, he's given us a couple of examples. Number 1, daven. Take out a Tehillim and just say a kapitel of Tehillim. Number 2, go ahead, close your eyes and sing a niggin. Right? That's what he saw yesterday. Sing a niggin. In other words, take the energy and channel it. Like, I'm feeling angry, terrible, right? There is a ton of energy coursing through me right now. So you can either allow it to continue in a destructive way or shut it down and rechannel it. Not easy what the Piaget says. Shabbos says, go weiter. He says, v'mechakrim hanis kalel, shenom nosim as hagoshen sayim lotzos, v'lespashim b'nei chakirasam. Shabbos says, so what happens? This is incredible. The mechakrim, those who are overly analytical and do not allow their feelings to come out. What else do we call these people? Yeah, Yekas. You're right. I got. That's an honor of Gabi. That's an honor of Gabi, right? No, I'm kidding around. So listen, Gabi's not like that. Gabi is probably the one person in this Kehillah who brings out more emotion in more people than one could imagine. I can tell you, my most emotional moments usually have Gabi included in them. So we'll say, but again, what he's describing over here is something amazing. What he's describing over here is something amazing is the mechakrim. So we'll say, so what happens? So remember, let's go back. The person, I want to be genuine. So what happens? The genuine person has this moment of quote unquote inspiration. And what happens? Now he begins to drive himself crazy, right? Is it genuine? So the Piagetna says, he says, V'amechakrim, those who are overly analytical and constantly analyzing their actions over and over, she'inam noselim hargoshoseim lotzes, they don't allow their emotions, their feelings to come out, or leispashet, and to expand, mipnei chakirasam, because I will say, they're always too scared to express emotion because they're not sure if the emotion is genuine or not. Yishra b'chakirasam. We'll say, what do you get from that? You'll spend a life of self-doubt. A life of self-doubt. V'chol yimehem, we'll say, is very profound. Rak rekos v'yeveshos. One who doesn't allow themselves to experience emotion, ultimately, again, will have an empty and dry life. Wow. What a statement. And also, we know it's true. Because we all know people who wall off their emotions. They can't create relationships. They can't really enjoy life. They can't be in the moment. They can't experience. Life becomes functional, but it's dry and it's empty. Mitimtum halei v'chashchas hamoach Hashem yatzilim mehem v'amonam. Kadosh Baruch Hu should save such people. Kadosh Baruch Hu should save them. Therefore, we'll say. So again, the Piagetna, we'll say, what's the takeaway from this? The takeaway from this is that when you have a moment of inspiration, just go ahead. Don't engage in self-doubt. Don't engage. Maybe it's not genuine. Right? It's possible. But even if it's not genuine, it could pave the way for something great down the road. I will say, I want to point out something else. Even if it doesn't pave the way for something great down the road, the ability to experience emotion is a necessary piece, ultimately, again, to one's self-actualization. You cannot access your neshama without accessing emotion. Now, again, there might be those who would argue with that. You know what I'll tell you, for example, in Brisk, right? The dynasty of Brisk. So intellect is king, and emotion is considered to be a sign of weakness. Rabbi Soloveitchik, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, wrote that Rabbi Soloveitchik's father was Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik. Right? So Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik came to America first before the Rav. The Rav was studying in university in Berlin, and Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik was invited to be the Rosh Yeshiva of what was then Yeshivas Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. So Rabbi Soloveitchik writes, he said, I said goodbye to my father at the train station, I think in Warsaw, Berlin, and we shook hands. And Rabbi Soloveitchik said, I never heard my father say, I love you. He said, I know that my father loved me very much. I know it. But my father never said the words, I love you. Because in Brisk, emotion was weakness. Intellect was king. And the logic behind that is because, again, that ultimately emotion could become a runaway train. Intellect is precise, intellect is measured, and intellect always works within constructs and frameworks. So I just want to point out, obviously, it's always important for us to understand that we are learning a mahalach. We are learning a mahalach. I spoke at a beautiful siyum tonight for boys at Ner Yisrael who finished Chafetz Chaim Shmiras HaLashon. 250 boys in the high school in Ner Yisrael who finished Shmiras HaLashon. So they made a beautiful siyum. So I was zocher to speak over there. And when I was sitting right there at the table a little bit, so one of the rebbeim was there, and I had my sefer with me, because I had to prepare a little bit for sure. And so I had my sefer with me, and one thing you can count on in Jewish events is that they're not going to run on time. So I was, well, Hashem, there's plenty of time. So there's Rebbe said, Bnei Machshava Tova. He's like, yeah, I once spoke to an Adam Gadol, a great person, and he said, we don't really hold like the Piaget's and the Machshava Tova. And I was like, who's we, Kimosabi? Right? Who's we? Who's we? Who's we don't hold like the Piaget's? No. Right? So I whatever. It's not important. Again, no. Yeah, it was being fact. I'm saying this to Alice. So we'll say again. Understand, we are learning a particular derech, but it's important to understand that this is not the only derech. Harbe drachim yesh lamakom, and there are those who read this and they're like, no way. This is fluff. This is this. Your emotions. This, that. Come on, sit down. Sit your tuchas in the seat. Open the Gemara. Get to work. Start doing, and let's go. Right? Stop it. Right? Enough with the fluffy, the imagining, the singing, the closing your eyes, the this, the that. Just get working. So again, I'm pointing it out. The Piaget is our Rebbe. So again, we subscribe to his hashkafa and we subscribe to this approach. But again, I'm just mentioning it to you that it's important to understand that there are different. And I will say, no one claims superiority. We make jokes about, but no one's cornered the market on finding HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are many different pathways. I'm just pointing out, here we're following the ways in the Piaget's, but I just want to point out that some might say emotion is a train wreck waiting to happen. Right? You want emotion to take control? Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? Do you know what happens when you put emotion in the driver's seat? All kinds of terrible things happen. Intellect has to reign. Piaget's is saying no. Piaget is saying emotion is the way to the neshama. And there,
society. I don't understand how they cannot see the whole '60s hippie movement. Yeah, it definitely tore away the fabric of society in a lot of ways and made things worse. But at the same time, pushed a lot of people who were Jew by name only into spirituality because of the music and unfortunately other things, but they put them on a search to get in the right direction. Now you have these Baal Yeshuva, right? It was this whole movement that was inspired by something.
It's true, but I could counter that. And when you look at the trends in contemporary society, they are totally devoid of logic and all emotion. And all emotion, right? Sure. The idea that you could identify based on that's not I'm saying this. It's not logical. Right. It's not. It's so again. I would say here's the beautiful part in Yiddishkeit, right? Our goal always is to be able to take, to be able. Yiddishkeit is like a little bit of a smorgasbord in a beautiful way, and the goal is to be able to take a little bit from different things and ultimately, again, combine them into a comprehensive Judaic identity. Again, to me, this speaks to me very much. Because in general, again, I identify more with emotion than I do with intellect. But again, it's just important for us to recognize that not everybody agrees with this. So the might say again,
question.
Sure.
So when I was last few years in Atlanta, I belonged to a Hasidic shul that started with a C. Y'all probably can figure it out.
Hasidic?
Let's go Hasidic.
Different kind of Hasidic. Carlin Stullen? That's a K. That's a K.
Oh, we don't have to guys. We're good. Good.
So anyway, there was an assistant
Kisatmer.
rabbi.
Yeah.
There was an assistant rabbi who was teaching Gemara once a week. He was teaching Gemara, so I went to the Gemara class once a week with him.
Yeah.
He was a good teacher, and I said something like, I'm a little confused. I said, sometimes I don't have a filter. And I said, I thought, the C didn't really, emphasize Gemara so much.
But they just drink vodka.
Yeah. And he was like, he got so incensed, and he was going on and telling no. He defended all the whole movement and everything. You are the first person I've ever met that had so much emphasis on the text and Daf Yomi, everything. You love it, but at the same time, really emphasize the emotional. So I'm still very confused as to what path. I mean, are you supposed to be, Rabbi Silver, and it's really emotional, but also intellectual, but subsist the intellectual to the emotional, or
what's the foundation?
So here's what I tell you. My job is not to tell anybody what to be, right? My job is to present many different pathways in life. What my personal feeling is I think that there is what to take from everything. I think if all you do is learn Chassidus all day and you never open up a Gemara, you're deficient. In other words, there's something missing from your spiritual diet. It's like you're iron deficient. There's something missing. If all you have is Gemara, but you don't have the piazetzna, you're deficient. You're deficient. It's so much, but the beautiful part, you see, here's the difference, is people think that you have to choose. See, like, in general, like, Jews are like this, well, it's like, whose camp are you in?
Right.
Hey, who's your Rebbe? Well, what sect? Well, what movement? What this?
Who's your dad?
And meanwhile, at the end of the day, I can't work under these conditions. I can't under these conditions. Yeah. Anyway. By the way, that's like your second strike. You know, I think the beauty of Yiddishkeit is the ability to see the incredible offering and then, like, be able to forge an identity that takes something from everyone. That's what I think. So, like, yeah, you have to learn Gemara. And every Jew should finish Shas. But at the same time, Chassidus opens up, like, an emotional dynamic that you can't find anywhere else. But how can you live life without Mesilas Yesharim? Right? Without Shara B'tachon. Right? So they're not Chassidus. In other words, I need it all. I need the Piazetzna, I need the Ramchal, I need the Shara B'tachon, I need Daf Yomi. I'm sorry?
There's not enough time in the day.
Okay, so again, there is enough time for everything if we prioritize in the right way. Okay, maybe not every single thing every single day, but there's always enough time. But I think that's the goal. I think, like, you know, the notion that we have to fit ourselves into a movement or into a box or into a this or into a that or into, you know, I will tell you just like on a personal level, one of the most difficult things I find is often just on a very, like, I don't feel like I belong anywhere within the organized Jewish community.
That's what I was saying.
I don't know. Like, where do I belong? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not like this. I'm not like that. I'm a little bit like this, a little bit like that. Like, I love a lot of this. I love a little bit of that. And the way I've made my peace a little bit with this is, like, I don't have to be defined by fitting into a group. My group is, I'm a Torah Jew. That's my group. I want to live a life of Shulchan Aruch. I want to live a life of Halacha. I want to go ahead and I want to finish Shas multiple times. I want to learn Chassidus. I want to become the best version of myself. I want to be excellent in my Me'adam L'Makom, Me'adam L'Chavero, and I'm going to use every single avenue at my disposal in order to be able to get there. That's my movement.
My follow-up question is...
Yeah.
One
Exhausted.
follow-up question.
Exhausted.
One follow-up. So I wanted you to be able to take a break.
Good, yes.
So my follow-up question is, so therefore, are the people that for 3,000 years that were our forefathers before Chassidus came around, were they deficient?
No. You see, here's the incredible thing. Chassidus, it's not like the Baal Shem Tov came along.
Bad murmur or
No.
It's a good question.
No, it's a very good question.
Matt, whenever you start talking,
No, it says, it's not, just to be clear, Chavra, it's very important. The Baal Shem Tov didn't invent new concepts. He tapped into something. Remember, Chassidus is very much based on Jewish mysticism. Right? Zohar. Where did Zohar come from? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That's the Talmud. So you're talking about a body of knowledge that is as ancient as the Gemara itself. It's just, now again, you know, there's a variety of reasons why often we'll call it Hasidic-like teachings or Kabbalistic teachings were often relegated to the back burner. False messiahs certainly did not help. Right, so that made a lot of the study of Jewish mysticism in general. So just to be clear, so the Baal Shem Tov did not come up with anything new. He took bodies of knowledge that existed, and he said ultimately, let's learn it, let's delve into it. What the Baal Shem Tov did do is something else, though. One thing he did do, which was a novel approach, is he said, not everyone could find HaKadosh Baruch Hu solely by the learning of Torah. Before the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, there was one access point, and the access point was learning Sechevra. You know, sometimes we forget, like, we have Art Scroll, we have Koren, we have Sefaria. So you could decide tomorrow that you want to learn, and you've never learned before in your life, and suddenly, like, you're on. Remember, before any of these things existed, if you had an extensive yeshiva education, you could learn. And if you didn't have an extensive yeshiva education, you could not learn. So you had wide swaths of the Jewish population just disaffected. the Baal Shem Tov said, there is meaning in the religious experience of davening. And there's meaning in the religious of having a l'chaim. And there's meaning in the religious experience of telling stories about tzaddikim. So in that respect, the Baal Shem Tov widened the net. And the Drov Chassidus, I just want to point out, the Drov Chassidus, at least initially, was not by the intellectual elite. It was by the common folk. Because for the first time in a very long time, the common folk felt enfranchised. So, chas v'shalom, to say that anyone before us was deficient. Chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom. Chassidus is not espousing anything new. It's taking ancient wisdom and it's just simply going ahead and bringing it now to the masses and maybe packaging it in a little bit of a different way.
I like that answer, and I know I'm talking too much, but
You're great.
I like that answer. The only problem I have with it, and I've heard that answer many, many times about how it's, I mean, you're not the first one who's ever said that to me, about how to enfranchise everybody, but to me, that's a definition of deficiency. If only the elite had it and the masses couldn't do it, that's deficient to me.
I don't know.
Right? I mean,
I think that things evolve in different ways. I don't know. The truth is, I'm not enough of a historian, to know exactly, what the situation of the masses was. I don't know.
Well, I've heard it many times, like you just said.
Yeah.
You had Avraham Avinu was trying to bring God to the masses by just bringing everyday people into his tent. He was doing that long before.
Yeah.
So can't you even say, Robert, there is, especially in the parts of the Gemara, there's a lot of emotion there.
By the way, there is emotion in everything.
Yeah.
There's emotion in everything, right? Well, what did we just do in today's daf? Right? Chatziav b'biyah, the chatziav b'nefila. Right? In that one line, what if half of my life is advancing and half of my life is failure? What's the status of my life? What does the Gemara say? Teku. It's such a simple line. So you could read it with intellect, or you could read it with emotion. If you read it with intellect, it's asking a halachic question. Right? If part of your body comes with drawn water and part of your body is immersed, so what's the halacha? Or you can read it with emotion. If part of your life is spent advancing and part of your life is spent failing, what's the nature of your life? I'm sorry? Correct. I'm just saying it depends how you read it. Right? It was Maim Shuvin, right? It depends how you read it. So emotion can be brought into anything. All right, well, so you know what? Good. I think we're gonna.
Sorry.
No, chas v'shalom. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. It's a great question. So again, bottom line. What's our takeaway? So, all right, a takeaway. No. Chas v'shalom.
Don't overthink it.
Our takeaway, and this is really it. Don't overthink it. If you feel it, go with it. If you feel it, ultimately, again, just enjoy it. If you feel it, if you feel it, does feeling it make it automatically genuine? No, maybe not. But remember, again, from the Piaget's perspective, the most important thing is utilization of emotion to access the spiritual. That's the most important thing. And if you have that moment of of emotional awakening, ride that wave. Why? Because even if 9 out of 10 times it's not genuine, if the 10th time is, mission accomplished. All right, we'll stop over here for today. Shkoyach.